Right, that does it. I have had enough. I am drawing a line in the sand. I am going to no more bad meetings. I've just sat through a meeting about a meeting. Now, I'm a huge fan of the film Inception, but that was a step too far in my book. It was the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back, and I draw a line in the sand. And I encourage you to do the same. Look, don't get me wrong. I don't have a problem with all meetings. I'm not anti-meeting at all. I just think that often they're the wrong tool for the job. Recently I was doing some work with a major UK charity and I was really excited to help them out as I admired their work. In fact, I decided to reduce my fee for the workshop I was going to run because I really wanted to support their cause. Yet despite this, the MD kept talking about the cost of the meeting. To begin with, I felt quite demoralised. After all, I'd slashed my prices. What more did they want from me? But it turned out that she wasn't talking about my fee, she was thinking about the cost of pulling together all those members of staff away from their day job to attend the meeting. She saw meetings in their own right as an expense, and to be honest, I think she was right for doing so. We often overlook the cost in time and therefore in money of meetings that we run. The more people that we add, the more we're costing the company. Then of course there is finding the time to get everyone into the room. And this is often a common barrier in the progress of my line of work. While digital is evolving on a daily basis, sometimes it can take weeks to get the right people in a room to make a frigging decision about something. This is especially true with web steering groups. They're often made up of large numbers of middle managers that seem to spend their whole life going from one meeting to another and are never available. When these meetings finally do take place, there's often a lot of talk and limited action. In fact, it's common to come away from a meeting with no specific action points. Even when the meeting does agree actions, they're often never implemented because nobody's given the authority or, more importantly, the responsibility to make them happen. All of this is frustrating beyond belief because running a good meeting is not exactly rocket science. In truth, running a good meeting comes down to the following. First of all, minimize the number of people attending. Don't invite every stakeholder to your meeting. You only need the main decision makers in the room. You can gather contribution from stakeholders beforehand via email or some other method. Number two, have a clear goal. What is it you want to achieve from the meeting? Provide attendees with a short summary of what you want to get from the meeting and what you expect those who are coming to actually provide for the meeting. Next, provide a frigging agenda. If the meeting is to cover more than one subject, make sure they've got an agenda and that each agenda item has an associated time with it. This means that people can just come to the part of the meeting that's relevant to them. Whatever you do, don't make me sit through some subject that I don't care about. Let me just come to the part of the meeting I know about. Next up, provide assigned next actions. Let's not go through the pain of one of these meetings without deciding what we're going to be doing next, what the outcome is. Establish concrete actions and then make sure that somebody has the job of doing each and every one of those actions. And please keep us on schedule. Start on time, even if there are some people missing. And also stick to the agenda schedule so that I can come and go just for the relevant parts of the meeting. And most of all, end at the agreed time. This is not just common courtesy, it will also put pressure on people to make a decision and move on. Finally, limit the length of the meeting. In my experience, any meeting that goes on over an hour begins to be less than productive. People get tired, distracted, and start making bad decisions. Limit your meeting to no more than an hour, and that might involve scheduling a second meeting, and I'm fine with that. But often it just means preparing better for the meeting and focusing people during the meeting. It's amazing how much you can get done if you're focused. See, that's not so hard, is it? But do you know what's best of all? What the best thing you can do to improve a meeting? Just don't have one. There are so many unnecessary meetings in the world. Don't add to that problem. So often we could avoid having a meeting completely if we put our minds to it. For a start, we can avoid a lot of meetings through collaborative working, but many people interpret collaboration as an excuse to hold yet more meetings. In reality, it should do away with the majority of meetings. Collaborative working is about sitting side by side and working together on a problem. It's not about holding a meeting to discuss that problem. When you're in a room together, working with someone all day, every day, then there's no need to hold a meeting. Of course, that's not always possible, but there are so many alternatives to a meeting. Slack conversations, Skype calls, shared Google Docs. These are fast ways to collaborate without the need to call a meeting. You see, we all suffer from a weird logic when it comes to meetings. If you call a meeting, you feel that you have to make that meeting worthwhile. After all, you don't want to drag people out for just a few minutes chat. That means we extend meetings longer than they need to in order to make them feel more meaningful. If we resolve the issue within a couple of minutes, we don't call the meeting to a close and move on. That would be embarrassing. It would feel like a waste of people's time. So what do? We discuss the issue further and make the meeting longer just to make it feel a bit more worthwhile. How mad is that? You don't have those kinds of problems if you're using Slack or Skype calls or a Google Doc. But sometimes we need to get the approval from real decision makers. Surely then a meeting is worthwhile. Yes, that is a good reason to have a meeting. But do you know what? It needs only one meeting. It doesn't need a regular series of meetings to approve each and every step along the way. Call a meeting and do two things. Agree on a framework for future decision making and then give someone the authority to make those decisions. Beyond that, you don't need any further meetings. That person can go and make the decisions based on the framework that you've given them and just report back via email. You could even get fancy and use something like a responsibility assignment matrix if you want to be clever about things. So there you go. Not all meetings are bad, but a hell of a lot of them are. And it's time that we start taking the cost of meetings seriously and investing in getting them right. We need to think before we call a meeting and encourage our colleagues to do likewise. With that in mind, I've produced a nice flowchart to help you make good decisions about your meetings. You can find it below. Good luck, and hopefully there are less meetings in your future.